Just have a, if everybody can see my screen. So welcome again to Critical Need to Look at Change webinar. So today's webinar actually is going to be a real exciting one. We have Wes Paterson here with us today. I'm glad to have Wes with us. Wes is a friend of the cluster and is actually going to be at WMTS and actually be part of a panel that we're putting on April 10th. So if you do get a chance to come out and you're in the Edmonton area, please come see us at WMTS and you can come check out our event. The schedule is now up on the WMTS website. So if you want to check that out, you can. And if you are a manufacturer, there is no cost to come to the event. So we're looking forward to having you. And I think you're going to really enjoy Wes's talk today. So, and we can kind of go from there. So aside of that, we did have actually an update here for everybody today from Cindy Mazzaros on the Labor Marketing Intelligence Project. Unfortunately, we have some technical difficulties. So, but what I will tell you is that Cindy's actually going to be presenting herself at WMTS as well too. So if you'd like to hear more and learn more about the Labor Marketing Intelligence Project, we'd love to have you come out here in Edmonton on the April 9th. She'll be actually opening up our show in the Smart MTX Pavilion, and she can tell you all about the project, and she has actually a really great PowerPoint that she can go through and talk in more detail about some of the things that we're doing with that project. Also, she's presenting on April 8th in Calgary at Big Rock Brewery. So if you're in Calgary, can't make it up to Edmonton to come see us, we're going to have basically another pretty much almost, I guess it's a half-day event at the Big Rock Brewery with lunch the day before we kick that off. So either way, you're going to get a chance to meet Cindy, meet the EMC team. So we're pretty excited about that. As everybody knows, we're going to be also we're going to have a special day dedicated to the Additive Manufacturing Network Hackathon on April 10th. So that'll be another upcoming event. And yeah, so just a little bit about what's coming up, some of the things that we will be doing, and just sort of a refresh on things to expect over the next few weeks. So we will have some more events when we put out our next webinar as well too. So stay tuned. So, but without any further ado, I'd like to introduce Wes Paterson from Paterson Consulting. Wes, can you give us a little bit of a bio on yourself, kind of who you are, what you do, and before we kind of get into the presentation?
Yes, thanks, David, and thanks for having me present here today. So my name is Wes Paterson, and my company here is Paterson Consulting. We're based in Southern Alberta, but we work with clients all across Canada. So we work with a lot of startup businesses in the startup space, but then we also work with manufacturers, and we partner with other professionals, individuals that are trained in Lean, Six Sigma, individuals that are trained in supply chain management, and we offer a lot of corporate training options for businesses as well. And so I'll share a little bit more about it in the presentation. And some of my background, maybe just to touch on that, is at one point I was involved in egg manufacturing. So bits, parts that went in for seed openers, for egg implements. I was involved in running egg manufacturing operation here in Southern Alberta. So that's a bit of my manufacturing specific background. And as I go through the talk today, it is going to be geared towards manufacturing, but there's going to be elements that no matter what your business is, you'll be able to pull some of these elements out and find some value. So thank you for joining us today. So I'm just going to bring up my PowerPoint. And so, as David mentioned, a critical need to look at change in your business. And now more than ever is a time for us to really look at what do we need to do? What do we need to change? And to just start, I want to play a little game. So run through with a game, and we're going to take a look at following picks. And what I want you to do is think of what emotions come up. Think of what emotions come up. Think of maybe what feelings come up as I show these picks. So here's the first picture. Do any thoughts come to mind when you look at this picture? How about this individual? Are those thoughts the same? Are they different? Here's another individual. And another one. Are you starting to see certain thoughts, maybe similar thoughts between some, different thoughts between others? How about this person? Did that shift feelings, emotions? Or this individual? For any of you AC/DC fans out there, or perhaps this person brings some thoughts to mind.
The AC/DC one, I think shifts me in a good way.
That's been one of the positive ones. Here's another individual. It's no longer on the planet. And another. How about this person? Some on the call might be wondering, who is that? Or this individual? How about him? Or her? For those in manufacturing, this individual should be familiar. And if you're involved in business, you may know who this is. And another question I want to put out is, do you personally know any of these people? And if you didn't know them, why did you have such a strong opinion of them, perhaps one way or the other? And these are things for us to just reflect on, because we might be looking at, they're going to have an effect on my business. They're going to have an effect on my employment. Or perhaps they have an effect on enjoyment in my leisure time. Here's a meme I recently saw, and it kind of speaks to the upcoming election. It's comparing qualifications and experience. Now, looking at the picture of Pierre, it almost looks like he's looking at his shoes, so it's not the best picture. Whereas the individual on the left, our new prime minister, has a lot more qualifications. But let's run another thought experiment. So let's look at Pierre. He was a paper boy for the Calgary Sun. He did corporate collections for TELUS. He founded a 3D Contact Ink company, has a bachelor's degree in art, 20 years of political experience, and landlord real estate investor. So some thoughts when I see that, I think, okay, it's an individual business owner, owns some property, real estate, has some political experience, has a bachelor's degree. Now, when I look at this image, and we look at Justin, we can see snowboard instructor. He was chair of a youth charity in Katamavik, director of an avalanche association. He has a Bachelor of Arts, a Bachelor of Education. He was a teacher, and he was also Prime Minister of Canada for over a decade. And so what does this data tell you? Perhaps you could look at this data and say, you do not require a master's or a PhD to become Prime Minister of Canada. And clearly you don't, because we had a Prime Minister for a decade that didn't. And it also says perhaps arts and education, aka more traditional liberal education, is more important if you're looking to go into areas of politics. And another one, gray hair goes a long way in politics, but perhaps it might not be as important in business, as we looked at some of the hair comparisons with some of the other business professionals. But ultimately, truthfully, if I have to be honest, I really don't know. I don't know what the future is going to be. There's tremendous uncertainty. And for anyone that tells you that they know exactly what tomorrow is going to bring, I think you should probably head for the hills. And what we look at doing with business and operations is trying to craft best guesses. And so as we go through this presentation today, and we're looking at our business, we're really trying to best guess on where we should take our business, what we should do with our business, what we should start to look at in our business so that we can receive the results that we want to achieve in business. We also want to recognize that not all data is created equal. This is an important thing to think about. Currently, we are facing new tariffs from the two global superpowers. So we're seeing headlines of this, tariffs coming from the US, tariffs coming from China. If we look at Canadian present concern, potential tariffs of 25% or more from the US, 25 to 100% from China. Carbon tax is in question. Energy production caps, those are in question. And if we look at the election odds between Mark and the Liberal Party here in Canada, or Pierre and the Conservatives, the odds are right now at most of the polls 50-50. And this includes online wager and betting sites. So it really is a bit of a crapshoot on which way the country is going to go. Is it going to go team red or is it going to go team blue? So there's tremendous uncertainty, there's fear and stress, and this gets perpetuated as we look and watch the news and as we're tuned into our phones and seeing all of this coming at us through social media and different platforms. So one new point that I want to address here, and this is just a recent announcement, is the establishment of a pre-approved trade corridor for economic growth and investment. So this is a proposal that's being put forth. It was just put forth on March 19th. So it's a provincial policy that's been sponsored by the Fort McMurray Chamber of Commerce and co-sponsored from the Southeast Alberta Chamber of Commerce, which is the region that I reside. It would look at a collaboration with other provinces, territories, and federal government to map out a multimodal national pre-approved trade corridor. This corridor will include pipelines, highways, railways, and transmission lines, including reviving and completing the Northern Gateway project, and develop specialized industrial hubs in Calgary and/or Edmonton that bundle complementary industries, offering tax incentives to attract logistics companies, manufacturers, and exporters. And when I look at this, I think, in my mind, this seems like a good thing if it goes forward. But again, it's going to have to go through all of those levels and layers, those barriers in politics. So this is just something that's been put forward, and it's been put forward quite recent at the provincial level. But as business owners, we have to look at, and individuals that maybe work for business or work for government, what can we control? Can we control those decisions ultimately? And if we can't, all we can do is support the local chambers or put forward our opinions to our MLAs and MPs, our elected representatives. So when we're looking at control in our business, we want to look at what we can control versus what we cannot control. Global supply chain disruptions, geopolitical tensions, and shifting market demands, these are probably things that are completely out of our control. Whereas things that are in our control could be internal operations, workforce development strategies, technology adoption, and innovation processes. So as you're looking at your business, I want you to put your focus on what you can control rather than what you cannot. When we're looking at our business, we want to look at 3 prime areas. We want to look at the people, we want to look at the processes, and then we want to look at the systems and the technology. So I'm going to throw this question out to the group. What's more important, the people or the processes? So something to think about. What's more important? Are people more important, or are processes more important? I think we could all agree that optimally we would want to have high quality people and high quality processes within our organization. If we have this, this is going to be our optimal performance zone. Teams excel with strong support systems. We have high quality people, high quality processes. But following that, I would suggest that the next level, if we couldn't have that optimal, would be to have high quality people and low quality processes. Now, what's going to happen here is we're going to have tremendous talent wasted, and it's going to be wasted by inefficiency. However, if we have high quality people in place, the people will help compensate for the system failures. In essence, the people will figure it out if we have high quality people. By contrast, if we have low quality people and high quality processes, the systems are going to carry weak performance. The processes maintain minimal standards despite limitations. So people are just doing the bare minimum. So there's no incentive to do more. And then the danger zone is going to be if we have low quality people and low quality processes. This is both human and operational elements require urgent intervention. So as you think about those 4 areas, high quality people, high quality processes, high quality people, low quality processes, low quality people, high quality processes, or low quality people and low quality processes, where would you place your organization? So again, this is something to think about, to look at, and to start inquiring, where is my organization falling? Another important thing is to understand your internal customers. And if you're unaware of what internal customers are, these are the other departments and team members. These are management and executives, subsidiaries, and affiliated divisions. And these internal customers, they require consistent communication and alignment with the organizational goals. We don't always think of internal customers. And when we don't think of internal customers within organization, this is when we start to see the silo effect appearing. And different silos are not communicating with other silos, and things start to break down. So my next question, how is communication currently in your business with your internal customers? Is it pleasant? Is it a place you want to be? The next type of customer we want to look at is starting to understand our external customers. So these are the end consumers and users of our products. There are business clients and partners, distributors and retailers. They drive revenue generation and market positioning through their purchasing decisions. So it's important for us to look at our external customers as well. So the next question, as we're taking a look at our business, how is communication currently in your business with external customers? Are you getting lots of complaints? Is business off the wall? Is stock flying out? How is communication with the external customers? Are things arriving on time? Are there delays? Are you having to make excuses? My father, he was an entrepreneur, and so he had an irrigation company, and this is a quote from him. One of the things he said to me as a young man, he said, Wes, if you take care of your people, your customers, and your suppliers, they'll take care of you. So if you start to focus as you're looking at your business, your organization, but if you start to look at the people that you're serving, I think you're going to find these are things that you can start taking control of, and they're going to start building benefit into your business. One of the concepts I'm going to go over with you a little bit today is the concept of psychological capital. This concept of psychological capital is essentially filling up your bucket. So filling up your bucket so yours is full, and filling up other people's buckets. So have you filled up your bucket? Have you taken some time for yourself? Are you getting adequate rest? Are you engaged in positive activities? Are you taking up hobbies or things that fill you with joy? Do you have great family relationships? So is your bucket full? Are you feeling love? Are you going out in nature? How does that look? And how about someone else's? Are you filling up other people's buckets? So these could be a significant other, these could be family, friends, in work settings, these could be our colleagues, these could be our customers, our suppliers. Are you going out of your way to fill up other people's buckets? When we look at John Maxwell's levels of leadership, he breaks it into 5 levels. So level number 1, the bottom run, is positional level leadership. It focuses on rights. You have a title, you have a job, and people follow you because they have to. They have to, you're given whatever title, role, and because they're not at that title or role, they will follow you. At this level, it's mostly carrot and stick. So you're given some incentives, rewards, and then you're enacting punishments when work is not performed. The next level, moving a step up, is permission. And so permission is people follow you because they want to, they like you, they enjoy you, they feel positive. There's a relationship built. There's levels of trust. Where most failures will happen is when we have level 1 leaders that try to leapfrog to level 3 production and start to actually produce and improve efficiencies with no relationship, with no trust. And ultimately, and this is a quote from one of my mentors, Jeff Griffiths, when we look at it, ultimately, most issues at the root cause are management issues. And often these are things that people just didn't learn. Lots of times people are moved up into supervisory, into management roles without these foundational levels of training on how to actually deal with people, inspire people, and lead their people. And one of the big things to do is to look at concepts such as filling up other people's buckets, the concept of psychological capital. Why do we know psychological capital works? So here's a picture on the left, and this is us doing some training out with the JBS Foods organization, and it's a really interesting facility located out here in Brooks, Alberta. And the facility has 2,600 team members. They're involved in global distribution, and they have representation from over 120 countries worldwide, 80 different languages spoken with 60 different dialects. So when we were developing training programs, leadership development for this organization, we really had to look at what are things that are going to universally work. What are training aspects that individuals can take depending on their level of education? Because we would have people in class with perhaps grade 3, grade 4 education, and then we'd have other individuals with PhDs. So there was a huge discrepancy. A lot of individuals, English was a second language. So we had to look at these concepts when we were developing training. And as a result of our work with JBS, the Brooks plant facility became the #1 plant running on all major KPIs worldwide. So they started to bring general managers from overseas to come see what we were doing and how we were bringing in some of these concepts, such as psychological capital, authentic leadership, and other aspects of conflict resolution. Now, we did leadership training, but we also did quality management training in parallel. So my question to throw out to you is, are you investing in developing your employees' skill sets? And if not, why not? Especially if we're looking at people as being the most valuable part of our organization. A couple of the courses that we run through Paterson Consulting for organizations. We do this in corporate training, individuals in construction that are looking towards obtaining their Gold Seal designation can also get credits towards that. So this is one course that we run. It's a 2-day course. It can also be done modular, split into half days, and it's our effective communication and conflict management program. The framework that we use a little bit, we touch on this in this course, and we dive a little bit deeper into it in our organizational culture course, is a systems approach for individual and organizational wellness. So we look at our foundational elements, we look at what are the inputs coming in and what are the outputs. Essentially garbage in, garbage out, or good in, good out. So when we're looking at foundational elements, what are these? What are our guiding principles? What are our core values and beliefs? And are those just written on posters, or do our employees actually believe them? Do they live by them? Do they exude those values and beliefs? We can also look at the physical structure of the company, this physical structure of the individuals at work, organizational structure, the enterprise architecture and cultural framework. These are all foundational. And so we start with foundation. So we want to build our house upon the rock, not upon the sand. So we want to have a firm, stable foundation. So it takes a little bit of time when we go through this. And I help a lot of businesses go through a process called strategic visioning to really dive into this. And then we start looking at what are the inputs, and input is anything from the external coming in. And what are the outputs? And the outputs are, once we've brought that external in, we're going to do something with that, and we're going to produce something that's now going from the inside out. And we can start to run these with different processes, procedures, training courses, methodologies, and we can see if we add this new process, is this going to elevate, is this going to lift the organization up, or is this going to just be a lot of bureaucratic paperwork and really bring that organization down? So we can run through this with various scenarios. And what's interesting is I'll have students run through, and they'll run through one first with all the company or corporate propaganda, and then they'll run a related scenario that looks at what's actually going on. Is that matching, or is there a disconnect? Are there some gaps involved? So again, the program where we really dive into this is our 3-day Enhancing Your Organizational Culture program. And we primarily do this for organizations in the form of corporate training. However, we do have a couple open enrollment sessions coming up in April and May. So we have one that's running in person through Medicine Hat College. And then we also have one through CPHR Alberta that's running May 6th to 8th, and that's available online. And I believe if you are a CPHR member, that you also save a little bit on your tuition if you register for that program. So if you're interested in learning more, I encourage you to visit the Massillon College Extended Learning or CPHR Alberta to check out those upcoming sessions. Now, sometimes we look at, well, how are these are expenses, Wes. If we're going to train people, this is going to cost money. And so there are programs available to help with this. So one great program that I've promoted for well over a decade, especially here in Alberta, is the CanAlberta Job Grant Program. Unfortunately, this program was put on pause, I believe, around August last year. But it was an excellent program. I've helped many businesses run through it because essentially you could train 3 for the price of 1. Now, just this past week, I received an email from the Minister of Economic Development from the province, Matt Jones, and he let me know that this program will be coming back in spring 2025. Now, it might not look exactly the same as it is here. This is what the program looked like previously. So what's the new spring program going to look like? I'm not sure, but he let me know that he got my email. I think I forwarded it to Premier Smith. And so he messaged me, letting me know that the program will be indeed coming back. It will be new, revised. I hope it'll be better for businesses, even more so than the program was previously. So I'm excited to see this program coming forward. So you really want to look at customized corporate training development that's specific for your needs. So that if you don't know what those are questions that maybe you have to ask yourself, what do we need for training development? What programs do we need to start looking at bringing in? And there's tons of programs available through the MEE cluster. There's programs that we have available to help with efficiency. I know David has a 5S workshop. So again, start to look at what are these programs, what are these opportunities, and where are we gapped, and where do we need to start adding resources. The next section I'm going to look at is why should we start looking at automation? Why automate? So I want you to take a look at this image. What do you currently see? We're looking at a manufacturing floor. And by just looking at it, can you tell me how well the shop floor is performing? How are they producing? Are all of the machines running? Really, at this point, when we're looking at this picture, I can see the floor is clean. I can see some boxes are neatly stacked, but that's about all I can really see from this quick visual. But now with automation, especially when we start looking at monitoring and controlling from anywhere and any time, we can start making real-time operational intelligence choices. And this gives us those real-time insights into how well our machines, our people are performing in real time on the factory floor. Now, how do we involve the workers? So again, we're talking about the people being important, so we want to make sure that we're involving workers. Well, one of the things we talked about was training. So when we put in investment into training and developing, now we're multiplying the eyes that can see the opportunities for areas where we can improve the organization. I'm just going to touch on Mr. Evicon, and I'm going to talk a bit more about him when I do a talk on productivity and performance hacks at WMTS. But Evicon is something that we're really happy about because Mr. Evicon is happy, and when Mr. Evicon is happy and he's smiling, we know that the production line is doing well. And so Mr. Evicon, there's so much genius to Mr. Evicon. When he's happy, when we have over 60% OEE, he's smiling. And again, you can set your metrics according to your business operation. When it's 40 to 60% in this example, he's got that neutral expression. And when it's lower than 40%, he's sad. Okay, so human, what do we learn when we're babies? We learn at birth a mother's smile. We learn the smile. We see people in the group, in the community, in our family, they smile. And that just fills us with joy and happiness. So one of the things that this does is it combines SciCap, filling up buckets, and automation, and it starts to move us in a humane way towards Industry 5.0, and also give those real-time insights to the people on the floor to know where they are and how well they are performing. It also gives insights to management when those employees start complaining about equipment breaking down, because now you can see in real time how many times that equipment is breaking down ongoing and how much that's costing in the long run. So you can start to look at it both ways. Did you know that improving OEE 20% could result in a 60% increase in profitability? So just that fact alone, looking at that, and that by implementing a software solution like Evicon into your business in as little as 6 to 12 months, you could easily achieve that. That is something that you could take control of and start looking at for your business operation. Another software, I'm not going to dive too much into this because my colleague Ellie Latac will be talking a bit more at Smart MTX on the stage, I believe on April 10th. Myself and Ellie will be up there, but it's about a solution called Kyami. And so I'm going to jump a little bit ahead here, but basically what Kyami does is it adds in troubleshooting engine along with digital factory blocks, along with AI. And essentially, all these tools work together and it reduces support calls because it improves repair time and downtime by up to 70%. And so how does it do this? Well, if we look at typically, we call the tech, different techs are going to have different skill sets. Maybe it takes John 40 minutes, where it takes Lee 2 hours and 55 and Tal 2:45, and Dan takes 3 hours and 25 to do the exact same problem. So again, this looks at things with training, with time at the company. Lots of things can look at what this is, but what that's going to do is that's going to have an increase in cost and rework, scrap materials, quality defects. Whereas with Kyami, it starts to be this troubleshooting tool that can help them identify that. And basically, you're going to start to fast track and train your staff a lot faster. And you can pull from the knowledge of John, and even John's performance starts increasing. So everyone starts increasing and the company wins big time. And again, when we look at cost savings with a solution like Kyami, a mid-sized factory, if you could add a solution like this and save yourself $1 million, is it worth it? Those are things to look at for your business. Cost savings and more. You might also be able to bring in other programs. So one program here available in Alberta through the ERA, companies can get up to $50K for an energy optimization assessment and audit. They can get up to $250K for energy management information systems, $100,000 for strategic energy management, and up to $1 million in capital retrofits. This might be a program if your industrial and manufacturing facility is looking to implement energy management, and that can further add value and cost savings. Same thing with the sensors in Evicon. They can start to identify, when there's the heat escape, and so there's things coming now with sensors and technologies where you can minimize energy wastage. Another program, for example, with Kyami that we could look at is water treatment. So City of Calgary has had tremendous issues with their water systems, having to conserve water. There's a huge discussion amongst the province with water treatment, with rural water. And these are things whereby digitally mapping these water treatment systems, this technology can also be beneficial on the municipal level as well. I'm not going to share a whole lot about Zagitus, but at one point, I think it would be great if Zagitus actually came on and did a session for the MEE cluster. But essentially what Zagitas can do is they can create these virtual process bots as a service. So think of anything that can be done on a computer, they can create bots that can do those functionalities. Use cases they have: increasing finance and accounting performance 86%, 77% in procurement, operations 82%. So again, there's a lot of use cases here. I'm not going to dive into it. And sometimes people wonder, well, where do I even start? Where do I start looking if I'm wanting to do automation in my business? And you might look at, do we have multiple people doing the same tasks? Or if there's errors in the task done wrong, is it extremely costly? And so those are ways we can start looking at. But one of the other things that is nice about Zagitas is you can think invisible office worker. Tasks can be performed faster without errors, but they can also offer discovery workshops where now you can go through a one-day workshop and discover, where automation might make sense. And because they're partners with Microsoft, they can also get office workers used to using Copilot tools to start improving their performance in that area. So people start to become familiar with all these AI tools available. And again, there could be also grant funding. So this is an example of one from Prairie's Economic Development Canada, just came out, called the Regional AI Initiative. So if you're looking at your business, creating new technology or implementing technology, this might be a program for you to also take a look at. Just before I jump to questions, I want to reiterate what David said. Come visit us in April at the Western Manufacturing Technology Show. And also let us know if you plan to attend, because he said free for manufacturers. And we can also send, I think we get access to colleague tickets. So we can send tickets direct to you if you're interested. We are going to be located in the Smart MTX Discovery Center at booth 1435. And we're actually have myself and Ellie, we have Sam Jones from Evicon. He's flying all the way out to Canada to be with us for a week. And so he's going to be giving live demos on the solution so you can see that. And we'll do it in a gamified way, so it'll make it lots of fun. And then we're going to be delivering a couple talks that breaking down barriers. So definitely, you won't want to miss that. And one last little plug. This show is completely sold out, but if you happen to have a ticket to this, I look forward to seeing you at the Jubilations Dinner Theater in Calgary, where I'll be talking about, are you a helicopter manager? And if you are, I might give you a couple tips on how you could become less of that, and your employees would definitely appreciate. So my question I'm just going to throw out to all of you is, now the time to look at your business? And if not now, when?
Well, thank you, Wes. What a great presentation. Really enjoyed the talk today. We have some chat in the chat box. I'm not sure if it's more specific to questions, but there was, I guess, some discussion around, I guess, somebody with a U.S. client being charged tariffs. So I'm not sure if that's a question or just more of a comment just on kind of what we were talking about in terms of barriers. So as far as questions, I do have a couple here for you. One is kind of more, oh, Amber's going to pop her head on. Amber, did you? No? Okay. All right. So as far as strategic visioning and questions are concerned, I do have one here for you. I just I guess somebody to ask kind of more specifically, kind of what you would go through if you wanted to go through a strategic visioning kind of session with you. Like what would you cover off? And they were kind of wondering about sort of like how you might go about like kind of building kind of a model around understanding their competitors. I don't know, is that something you could answer for everybody today?
Absolutely, absolutely. So ultimately, the end goal of strategic visioning is to get a bit of a game plan. But we don't start there. So there's a bit of a method to the madness. So where I like to start is with what's called a spot matrix. And so more commonly, people know about SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. However, I prefer SPOT because I don't think you should ever call yourself or your organization weak. I learned this years ago in martial arts. You never want to speak weakness to yourself or to someone else. What you have is you have a problem or you have a challenge. So that's usually a great starting point in any strategic visioning process. One of the tools that I like to use is Lucid Spark. And so that I can run this process with disparate groups. I can run this process with clients across Canada. And so we start looking at what's internal. What are our strengths and what are our problems? And sometimes I'll run that with just the owner or a small team. And then it's good after we go through that process to bring other team members in to have a look. So they might not be through all the session, but they might be, are those current and internal strengths? Are those current and internal problems or challenges? So that's a way to look right away. Opportunities and threats, those are external. So in the question of competitors, competitors would be seen as threats. And what's funny is when we start going through the strategic visioning process, sometimes competitors are a good thing. And I'll give you an example. During COVID, there was food trucks, and all the food trucks would come here in Medicine Hat to a specific location. And so people would drive up, and now all the food trucks got business. But if a lone food truck is parked off somewhere, are people going to drive to that? So actually, the fact that a bunch of food trucks located together, people drove that way. So competitors actually improve your business. So I think in many ways, competitors make you work better, harder. They provide better opportunities for the end consumer. So competition is actually really a good thing. So we take a different type of look in competitors. Ultimately, the goal is that you're not the one chasing. You're the one that the competitors are, what's David doing? So we kind of look at being that rather than putting all your focus or your energy on the competitor. It's like if you're running a race and you're just visualizing, running behind someone, you've already lost because you're going to be, second place or back, right? So how can we look at you leading the field or you leading the field in one specific micro niche area? And so often that when we go through that process, it also leads to things like innovation, and then to start to look at R&D and start to look at other streams of income that we maybe really didn't explore before. So the market does this, but maybe this opens up a new opportunity. So after we do our SPOT matrix, usually the next logical step is to look at context mapping, where we look at the broader macro, and now we can look at what are the trends, what are the uncertainties, what's the new technology coming out, what are customers needing, who are the political players, what are the economic conditions. So all of that comes into strategic visioning. So it's not just create this quick plan and goal, because if you spend the time at the beginning, you spend that time working on the foundation and find out what are our true values and including your team in that, those will be a lot more meaningful than just posters on a wall.
No, that's awesome. I appreciate that, Wes. I think that answers the question. I have another question here. This is an interesting one because this one actually kind of sort of ties into my world a little bit, but just around strategic visioning, but kind of where does process improvement fit into when you're doing a strategic visioning plan? Where would you see a process improvement part kind of sit in that whole, if you're working with a client, how does that fit in there? And that part of it, would you have reskilling as part of that kind of part of the plan, or is it changed from client to client? That's one of the questions we just got asked.
It kind of does change from client to client, but we start at the same, we use the same process, can be used whether it's a manufacturing client, whether it's a construction client. I'll give you an example. And I won't say which city this is, but we were doing some work with a city and we were looking at how many steps or how many hands this process had to go through to get to the end customer, and the end customer being the citizen of the city or the taxpayer. And this process had to go through 20 steps. And so clearly this is, you know, stop sign, the red flashing light of, you know, terrible process. So then it's just asking the question, does it need to go through all these steps? Does it need to go through all these things? And that's where that model, the systems approach model, is this spiraling down or is this lifting it up? And often terrible processes happen because individuals are not having the customer experience. So when you're not having the customer experience, when you're not on the phone with TELUS for 2 hours trying to speak to a human, you know, it's automation, right? Like, so it's automation, but it's very ineffective automation. And if that market was to open wide and all of a sudden Verizon's in and this, I think we would see change. It's kind of like Uber disruption to taxi cabs. As soon as processes become less painful and there's other options for the end consumer, these are things to look at. Government's a little bit challenging because there's not as much of that driving motivation or that rush that there is in the free marketplace. So again, it's a little bit more, but now we're actually seeing when it comes election time, so every 4 years around, now it becomes, oh, you know, and then all the promises come out from both sides and this, and at the end of the day, I don't know. And that's one thing that is hard for businesses to do, is to just admit, you know, I don't know, and I need help and I need support and I need to take a look at that. And if you're ready, willing, and able to do that, we can help you. But if you know it all, and there's a lot of manufacturing companies that know it all, we've always done it this way, we'll always do it this way.
It's funny you say that, because I think it's kind of, you know what you know, right? And that, unless you actually kind of engage in a process like what you're talking about, you will only ever know what you know. So it's an opportunity. So I just want to put out there, we've got 2 minutes left. So is there any other questions? You can put those in the Q&A or in the chat box if you do have questions. And we'd love to take one more question before we end the call. It looks like we don't have any other questions, so I'm going to leave it at that. But I'd just like to thank our guest today, Wes Paterson. Wes, thanks so much for coming out and helping us. What a great talk, and we really appreciate your talk today. And like Wes said, if you can come see us at WMTS, we'd love to have you and meet you face to face and chat with you there. So we look forward to seeing you, and we look forward to seeing you on our next call. And thanks so much for coming out today, everybody. Take care.
Thanks, everyone. And message David or I if you want a ticket.